Hi, welcome to Walking in Love. I'm Melissa Whitkey. Thanks for joining me today. The title of my message today is Remember Your Place. The idea of remembering your place comes from the Sermon on the Mount, which is when Jesus went up on the mountaintop and started preaching. You can read the account of it in the Gospel of Matthew, starting in chapter 5. And the Sermon on the Mount is a really powerful message that people refer to because Jesus calls out the actions of how we're supposed to live our lives, and it's called the Beatitudes. And so I want to call out the first one because I think it's something that we really need to think about. So I'm going again to the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5. Jesus said, "Blessed, happy to be envied, and spiritually prosperous, with life, joy, and satisfaction in God's favor and salvation, regardless of their outward conditions, are the poor in spirit, the humble, who rate themselves insignificant, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Wow, so we're supposed to be humble. We're supposed to rate ourselves as insignificant. How do we do that? What does that look like? So there's a quote that God gave me many years ago that I've been carrying around, and it kind of really ties into today's message. And it's this: all of man's most miraculous creations are but a feature on one of God's masterpieces. When we lived up in New Jersey, my son and I used to take walks through this amazing neighborhood. And the homes in it were just grand and huge, and there were mansions basically. And we used to like to walk through and look at each one, and oh, here's baby Jax. He likes to listen to us preach, right? So we used to walk through these neighborhoods, and we'd imagine ourselves living in these amazing homes. And they were huge. They were probably 10,000 square feet or bigger, some of them. Beautiful stonework. I mean, when you think of a mansion, that's what this neighborhood was. Gorgeous homes. But the thing that made the homes really remarkable, the things that made them so amazing, was not just the home itself, but it was the land that they were sitting on. They were gorgeous pieces of property, and behind them were these mountains. And so it was the combination of what man created and what God created that made them spectacular. Without the backdrop of the property, they wouldn't be so magnificent. And so that's this idea that everything that man creates is just a feature on one of God's masterpieces. I want you to think about everything that man has created, because there's nothing that we have ever done that didn't start with something that first God had done, right? Every product, every service, everything that we actually offer, all the advancements that we say we make, that we take credit for, that we're proud of, that we boast about, came first from something that God gave us, right? Think about it. You can't think of one thing that man takes credit for that didn't first originate with God. Every product, every service, every company out there is using something that God gave us first. And that's how we remain humble. All we have to do is remember that and give thanks to God. I talk about these carts that my husband designed that we sell. And it's getting kind of exciting because we're getting more and more sales. We're getting known outside of our reseller. We're getting direct sales. And we had a second reseller recently who got their first sale, so it was really exciting for me. I get really excited because it's something that, it's the first business that we really started other than consulting. We're not the product. That's one of the things I encourage people to do is, if you can, you don't want to be the product because there's only one of you. You can only work so many hours. You can't split yourself into whatever. So that's what I like about product sales. But anyway, that product is steel. It's made from steel. That's the majority of what it is. It's this very heavy cart. It's 122 pounds. Baby Jax is back. And it moves these really heavy safes. So anyway, I love that, but I know that cart wouldn't exist without God, right? That steel was something that we created, right? It comes from the earth. It comes from something from God, right? I always give thanks every time I get a sale, every time I see, a sale in my inbox, boy, do I get excited. And the first thing I do is thank God. I always remember how insignificant I am, how small I am. And I'm so humbled by the magnificence of God. And we need to be. And that's what Jesus says here. We have to be poor in spirit. That doesn't sound so good when you say it that way, right? Blessed are the poor in spirit. But what do you get for that? The poor of spirit, again, are the humble who rate themselves insignificant, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Who doesn't want that? And the last message I spoke to you about is that we're here for a very short time. I plan to live till 100. That's what I'm committing. That's what I see for my life. We'll see if that comes true or not. But whatever number of years we have here are small in comparison to eternity, which is what we have available to us if we just turn our lives over to Jesus Christ and to God, right? But this idea of being humble, this idea of remembering our place, if you realize that everything that we have came from God, there would be no arrogance, right? There'd be nothing to brag about. We would be humble. We would always know to thank God because we know it's not from us. Yes, we take what God gives us and use it for good. Remember, that's what I always talk about. That's my primary message. Say yes to God. Take what he gives you, the gifts that he has inside of you, everything that you are, and use it to serve others with love. And when we do that, we have that peace that truly does transcend understanding. I'm just learning about that peace, which is why I'm so passionate about these messages. Because isn't that what everyone wants? Don't you want to lay your head down on your pillow at night and sleep soundly, knowing that you're on the path you're meant to be on, that you've made other people's lives better through your actions, that you've used everything that you have inside of you to serve in love? Don't you want that? Boy, do I want that. Boy, do I want to spend the rest of my life getting better at doing that. And being humble is part of that. I want to always remember that without God, I'm nothing. I also talked about in my last message that this world around us, without God, it's not worth it. Is it worth living without God? No, it's not. Because that's another message I'm going to talk about. I've been reading the book of Ecclesiastes, where Solomon, the wisest man that ever lived, the richest man that ever lived, talks about what mattered. He had it all. He had everything he possibly could have. And he said that without God, it meant nothing. It was a striving after the wind. It was nothing. It was meaningless. He had everything that he could have, everything that money could buy, everything. He tried everything. He did everything, and it was meaningless because he said at the end of his life, he'd have to leave it to someone who didn't even work for it. Think about that. We work so hard for things. We strive after things. We get ourselves all puffed up and arrogant over things that really didn't matter at the end of our life anyway, or, weren't ours really anyway. To keep ourselves in balance, to keep ourselves in checks. And again, that's another message, and I kind of went into it more than I planned to. But this life of ours can be beautiful and perfect and amazing and exciting, and it's meant to be that. All we have to do, though, is remember our place. Remember that we're here at this moment in time because God chose to have us here. And we have a destiny. We have a mission that we're supposed to finish while we're here. You're supposed to take whatever gifts you have and use them humbly to serve the world with love. So I hope you'll do that. I hope you give this some thought. And again, that quote, I've been hanging on to that quote for a long time, that all of man's most miraculous creations are but a feature on one of God's masterpieces. Man boasts and says, look what we did. Look, we're so much further along than any other, time in history. And maybe that's true. We have, done a lot of advances. But what's more significant, what about our hearts? We can, boast about all of these things that we've done, which we're not supposed to do. We're supposed to be humble, again, and knowing that everything starts with God. But are our hearts changing as fast as the technology is changing? Are our hearts more giving, more loving, more determined to turn towards God? That's the thing that I'm most worried about, because I don't see that changing at the same pace as I see technology changing, which is something I work with every day. And, yes, we're making great strides, but we can't lose what we're here for. We can't lose the foundations. We can't lose that we're here to love each other. So I'm encouraged by this message. I love this message because it reminds me that I'm here temporarily and everything is God's. I get to use it. It's like he says, here, Melissa, here's your mission. Here's all the things you need. He gives me like a box full of stuff. Obviously it's a proverbial box full of stuff. And in it is everything I need to to fulfill his plan for my life. And each one of us get that box full of stuff that we need. We have everything we need, and all we need to do is look at it, work with it, use it, be thankful for it, be humble, right? And understand that anything we do with that box of stuff is his, not ours. And then it'll all be great. So I encourage you. I hope this was a fun message for you. It was a fun message for me to preach. And I look forward to the next message where we're going to continue on the Beatitudes, because this is Jesus' message to us about how we should live our lives. Isn't that what we want? So I hope this was a good message again, and I ask God to bless you and keep you, and I'll look forward to the next time. Have a blessed day. Thanks for joining me.